Welcome to Creation in the 21st Century. I'm your host, Carl Baugh, founder and director of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. You can anticipate the title to today's program, which is Nest Full of Eggs. Now, these are not normal eggs. These are dinosaur eggs. And as you know, if you've been watching the program for any period of time, I dig dinosaurs. I've had the privilege of discovering and directing the excavation of 16 different dinosaurs. And my guest today digs dinosaurs as well. He's been with me digging dinosaurs in Colorado, with me excavating dinosaur footprints among human footprints in the Paluxy River Basin at Glen Rose, Texas. And one of my very favorite guests, all the way from Canada, professor and science researcher Ian Juby. Ian, it's a pleasure to have you back.
Always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to be back in Texas.
I understand you're learning your second home, and you're learning to speak Texan a bit, I understand.
Learned how to say out and everything.
Yeah, instead of out?
Instead of, you got it. Hey,
yes, I'm learning Canadian.
That's right. You'd make it well in Canada. No problem.
Well, okay. That's the only word in Canadian I know. Okay. All right. He is literally one of my very favorite guests. And I remember when I first met you as a young researcher. You were involved in a ministry and scientific research, and this audience should know that your IQ is off the chart, and we appreciate that, and God has gifted you, and all the credit goes to Him, as you've said.
Amen.
And I'm so pleased that you're using these talents for the honor of the Creator and for the benefit of we who are doing scientific research. And all of it points to creation as opposed to evolution. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Overwhelmingly so.
Now, you're an engineer by design and by original vocation. Yes. Now it's avocation. Your vocation now, your absolute commitment is scientific research.
Yes.
And you're doing a lot of work in geology.
Quite a bit, yes. Geology, paleontology, that's my stronger interests. But
well, this audience should understand that in preparation for this program on TBN, you spent months building these unique replicas that are specifically exact to the originals from which they were taken and to which they refer. But just to get here from your home requires 2 16-hour days of driving time.
Yes.
Now, for the average person, that's 4 8-hour days of driving time.
Yes, it would be.
But you're indefatigable. Now, how would you say that in Canadian?
I have no... I'd have to look that up first.
Oh, okay. You just don't...
I'm assuming you didn't insult me, but...
Oh, no, you just don't fatigue. You're committed to your purpose, so you just proceed. But rather than spend time with amenities, Ian, I'm so very proud of you. Professor Clark, who is one of your mentors, and scores of other creation scientists, are so proud of the work that you're doing. Now, we have a nest full of eggs, and they have a global statement to make. And I want you, please, to share with this audience the message these eggs portray.
Sure. It's been a really fun, fascinating study for me. And a lot of this is centralized around an article by Barnhart in the Creation Research Society Quarterly magazine. He did an excellent article, multiple pages, examining dinosaur egg nests. Because, again, dinosaur egg nests are used as an anti-global flood argument.
Correct.
Repeatedly. The argument is quite simple. It's like, oh, how can a dinosaur lay eggs and nests in the middle of a raging flood? There's several misconceptions with that argument and that claim. The first, of course, being that it is always implied Noah's flood happened overnight. That is simply not the case.
Correct.
When you take a look at the scriptures, it rained 40 days and 40 nights before Noah's Ark began to float. It then continued to rise, the waters continued to rise for another up to the 150th day.
That's right.
At which point the highest mountains were then covered. It then receded off the land. So we're talking 150 days before all the land was covered.
Yes.
Even if you only go with the 40 days, that's a month and a half. That's a long time.
Yes.
And there was a
for adjustments.
For adjustments. And if a dinosaur is laden with eggs, 40 days is a very, very long time.
To get rid of those eggs and to place them.
Exactly. I mean, well, in the words of a very famous creationist, some guy by the name of Carl Baugh, I think his name was, he said, when you got to go, you got to go.
That's right. That's right.
And it's so true, you know. So what I want to do is just introduce dinosaur egg nests. Nests themselves are actually pretty rare on a relative scale when we find eggs. When we do find them, this is a replica of an oviraptor egg nest.
All right.
And there's a lot to be learned from these kind of nests. Apparently what the dinosaur did, it stood in the middle of the nest, laid 2 eggs at a time. You'll notice they're laid in pairs.
Yes,
okay?
in parallel pairs.
And there's been some speculation that possibly they were glued together with mucus as well when they were laid.
I can understand that.
Yes, possibly. So what it would do is it would lay 2 eggs. It would then, standing in the middle, it would then rotate, lay another 2 eggs, rotate, lay another 2 eggs.
All right.
And sometimes 2 layers deep. And we'll take a look at a moment at another nest.
There's a beautiful program design in laying 2 eggs.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm sure you know that the raptor got his name as a misnomer, but it stuck. The raptor indicating egg stealer, as if he were tearing up egg nest.
Yes.
But now they have found that she was actually attempting to protect the young. And the eggs just laid.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you brought that up. That's where I was going next. You're reading my mind again, aren't you? Stop that. That's rude. Anyway.
Camaraderie.
Okay. But it's true. It was originally named ova for egg, raptor for stealer.
Yes.
Egg stealer.
Yes.
Because it was found in association with eggs. Later on, that same egg was found elsewhere with a dinosaur embryo inside it. And lo and behold, it was the oviraptor.
Oh, yes.
So they concluded maybe it wasn't stealing eggs, as they originally thought. It was, as you said, trying to protect the nest. Now, interestingly, that was only the first of a few that were found. This is from on display in the American Museum of Natural History. This was, again, an oviraptor, what they called brooding its nest. Now, this is not evidence of long geologic processes. I'm sorry. When you can see this actually had 2 layers of eggs, again, laid in a circle. Many are still under the remains of the skeleton, and so they haven't excavated them yet.
But these are elevated at different layers.
Yes, they were laid on top of each other. So there was 2 rings of eggs, and then the dinosaur sat in the middle and was apparently attempting to protect them when the whole thing was buried together rapidly.
As the sediment was rising.
Very quickly.
That is a major statement.
Exactly. And this is not, again, these are an attempt to disqualify the global flood, saying, you know, how could a dinosaur lay eggs in the middle of a global flood? This isn't refuting it. This is excellent evidence for catastrophe.
Supporting catastrophe.
Exactly.
A rapid catastrophe, yet a number of hours to accomplish the task. When you got to go, you got to go. When you have to lay the eggs, you have to lay the eggs.
Exactly. And even then, let's say it was doing all of this in the middle of a flood. How long is it going to take to lay an egg nest?
Certainly.
A couple hours? I mean, really, if it takes its time, it's not going to take a long time.
If all the eggs are ripe and ready.
Exactly. It certainly does not support millions of years. It does not. It supports a time gap, yes, but a couple of hours at best. And again, evidence of catastrophe is intertwined with that.
And,
as well.
Ian, we have learned from our mutual dear friend, Professor M.E. Clark, University of Illinois, that the layers of sedimentary deposit were actually 12 hours apart, and there was an assuaging factor due to the effect of the moon. So there was a lull in between, and then the waters would graduate and form another layer. So here we can see this progressive graduation and the urgency of the situation, but all taking a number of hours.
Well, certainly. And you can envision every tide is higher than the last every 12 hours because the water is continually rising for 150 days. Superimposed on that, you've got tides. Even if it's only like today's tides, maybe only going up and down 3 or 4 feet, that's still a pretty serious wash of water.
That's right.
And if you get 10 or 12-foot waves, which are not uncommon in the oceans, and those are now going inland long distances, you can get huge sheets of mud and water laid down over tremendous distances as the water every 12 hours goes higher than the last.